I can't do it. Tunde raised an eyebrow. Then be ready to lose everything. Chuka frowned. Everything? Yes, Tunde said firmly. Your money, your wealth, your name, your life. You don't back out. You don't delay. You give or you suffer. There has to be another way, Tunde. Tunde leaned closer. When you drank from that cup, you chose your path.
Chuka Obi sat quietly at his corner desk, staring blankly at the screen in front of him. The advertising agency buzzed with life. Phones ringing, footsteps echoing, voices rising and falling. But inside Chuka's mind, everything was still, silent, heavy. It was a Monday morning in Port Harcourt, and the city was already alive with energy. But for Chuka, it was just another day of pretending to be okay. He rubbed his temples, sighing deeply as he glanced at the untouched cup of tea beside him. His mind wasn't on work, not on the new campaign pitch due by noon, not on the meeting with the creative team. His thoughts kept going back to his rent, his younger sister's school fees, his mother's medical bills, and his nearly empty bank account. He had been working at Apex ad agency for almost 5 years, and although he had risen to a mid-level executive position, nothing had changed in his personal life. He was still broke, still borrowing money, still hustling like a fresh graduate. The salary came in, but it never lasted. Every day on his way to work, Chuka passed by GRA Phase 2 and saw the luxury cars, the marble fences, the well-dressed men with wristwatches that probably cost more than his entire annual income. He would slow down his old Toyota Corolla and wonder what they do differently. Were they smarter than him? Did they work harder than him? Or did they simply know something he didn't? His colleagues often called him the workaholic because Chuka never joked with his duties. He handled clients well, met deadlines, and often stayed back after hours. But none of that seemed to matter. He still struggled to afford decent clothes. His shoes had started peeling. His wristwatch had stopped working weeks ago. He hadn't told anyone yet, but he had borrowed money just to afford his transportation for the week. As he sat at his desk that morning, a familiar voice startled him from behind. "Chuka, Mr. Kaza is here. He asked to speak with you directly," said his colleague Amara with wide eyes. Chuka blinked. "Mr. Kaza, as in the CEO of Blackstone Oil?" "Yes," she replied. "He is in the boardroom." Chuka stood up quickly, brushing off his shirt and grabbing his notepad. He had heard of Mr. Kaza several times, a powerful oil magnate known for his wealth, mystery, and influence in Port Harcourt elite cycles. People said he didn't waste time with junior staff. For him to ask for Chuka directly meant something big. As he entered the boardroom, he met a tall, dark-skinned man dressed in a charcoal grey kaftan, sitting alone with his legs crossed. A calm smile played on his lips. "You must be Chuka Obi," the man said, his voice deep and controlled. Yes, sir. It's an honor to meet you, sir." "No need for this, sir. Just call me Kaza." "Sit." Chuka obeyed and sat opposite him. "I've seen your work," Kaza said, flipping through the campaign document on the table. "You are creative, bold, hungry." Chuka nodded slowly, unsure how to respond. "That's good," Kaza added. "Hunger is what drives men to greatness. You have it. I can see it in your eyes. You want more from life." Chuka felt a sudden rush in his chest. No one had ever said that to him before, at least not like this. Yes, I do," he said honestly. I've worked hard, but it feels like I'm just stuck." Kaza chuckled softly. "You are not alone. Most people spend their whole lives chasing something they don't even understand. But the real ones, the ones who break through, are the ones who understand the price of success. Chuka tilted his head. The price? Kaza leaned forward slightly, his smile widening. Everything of value has a cost. The question is, how far are you willing to go? There was a long silence. Chuka didn't know what he meant exactly, but something about the way Kaza spoke sent chills down his spine. It wasn't threatening, but it wasn't ordinary either. I like you, Kaza finally said. I'm working on a private campaign, very discreet. I want someone with vision and loyalty. If you do well, it could open doors for you, doors you never imagined. Chuka swallowed. Thank you, sir. Kaza, I appreciate the opportunity. Kaza stood. I will have someone send the brief to your email. Do your best. The rest will follow. With that, he walked out of the boardroom, leaving behind a faint scent of expensive collagen and an air of mystery. That night, Chuka couldn't sleep. He lay on his mattress in his small one-bedroom apartment in Rumola, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above him. His mind raced. Who exactly was Mr. Kaza? Why had he picked him out of everyone? And what did he mean by the price of success? He checked his email again and again. The brief had arrived. It was for a high-budget campaign for a new product launch. Something about energy, power, transformation. The budget alone was bigger than any project he had handled before. If he got it right, he could change everything. He began working immediately, ignoring sleep. Days turned into nights, and Chuka poured his soul into the presentation. He barely ate, barely spoke to anyone. Even Uju, his girlfriend, began complaining that he was avoiding her. Is it work or is something else? She asked during one of her visits. It's just work, babe. Please be patient with me, he replied, not meeting her eyes. She sighed and hugged him. I just don't want you to lose yourself in all of this. But Chuka was already gone, mentally drifting into a world where money, power, and recognition were all that mattered. When he finally presented the campaign to Mr. Kaza and his team, the room was silent for a long time. Then Mr. Kaza stood and clapped slowly. Brilliant, he said. You are going places, Chuka. Keep your phone on. That night, Chuka received a credit alert, 1.5 million naira. His heart raced. He had never seen that amount of money in his account before. A test followed. Dinner tomorrow. Dress well. Kaza. That night, Chuka stood in front of a mirror, wearing a borrowed suit from his neighbor and friend Madu. He had used a portion of the money to buy new shoes and get a haircut. He looked like someone else, confident, sharp, and ambitious. The dinner was at the Velvet Orchid, one of the most expensive restaurants in Port Harcourt City. As he entered, he noticed how everyone turned to look at him. Kaza sat at a private booth at the back, surrounded by 3 other men in native attire. Their presence was commanding. Chuka greeted them with respect. This is Chuka Obi, Kaza introduced, our rising star. The men nodded approvingly. Throughout the dinner, they talked about success, power, politics, and how the world was controlled by those who dared to take it. They spoke in riddles, in symbols, and in metaphors that made Chuka feel like he was being slowly drawn into a world he didn't fully understand. But he didn't care. For the first time in his life, he felt seen, important, and valued. As he left the restaurant that night, Kaza pulled him aside and said, "There is more. When you are ready, you will know what to do." Chuka stood by the roadside, the night air brushing against his skin, his heart pounding. He had tasted the first drop of something powerful, and now he wanted more. Chuka Obi leaned back on his couch with his phone in hand, his eyes fixed on Instagram. His screen was filled with luxury, vacations in Dubai, private jets, gold chains, expensive suits, and champagne bottles. Young men around his age were flaunting lives that seemed impossible just a few weeks ago. Chuka scrolled past one particular post. A guy he knew from his university days, posing with a brand new Lexus, tagging the location as Banana Island. The caption read, "Started from the bottom, now we are sipping life." Chuka shook his head. "God, when?" he whispered. He looked around his apartment. The fan in the corner was quaking again. His curtain rod had fallen last week, and he didn't have time or money to fix it. His fridge was nearly empty, and the kitchen sink still leaked. The 1.5 million naira from the Kaza job was almost gone. He had paid off debts, helped his mother with hospital bills, and bought a few nice clothes. But the money didn't stretch like he hoped. And now that he had tasted a bit of luxury, it wasn't enough. He wanted more attention, more success, more power. He picked up his second phone and checked Kaza's WhatsApp message again from 2 days ago. "There is more. When you are ready, you will know what to do." That message haunted him. What did it mean? How could he be ready for what he didn't even understand? Just then, a knock came at his door. He opened it, and there stood Uju with a nylon bag in her hand. "I brought you soup from Mama Esther's," she said with a soft smile. Chuka forced a smile. "Thanks, babe." She walked in and looked around the messy room. "Chuka, have you eaten anything today?" "No, I've just been busy," he said, avoiding her eyes. "Busy with what? You haven't picked my calls. You don't reply messages. You don't even smile like before. What's going on?" Chuka dropped his phone and sat. "I don't know, Uju. I just feel like I'm wasting my life." "But you're doing well," she said. "You just got a huge job from one of the biggest clients. Be proud of that." "I want more," he said quickly. "I don't want to live like this forever, struggling to survive while others enjoy life." Uju looked at him with soft eyes. "There is nothing wrong with wanting more, Chuka. But don't lose yourself in the process. I miss the old you, the one who laughed even when things were hard." Chuka nodded but said nothing. That night, after Uju left, he couldn't sleep. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling again. Then his phone buzzed. It was a DM on Instagram from someone he hadn't seen in years. "Guy, I see you are moving up now. Long time. Let's catch up. Drinks on me. Tunde." Chuka blinked in surprise. Tunde, his old schoolmate from Uniport. The same Tunde who used to beg for data and eat from people's plates. He tapped on Tunde's profile and gasped. Tunde had changed. His profile was filled with pictures of him beside sports cars, wearing designer clothes, partying in South Africa, Ghana, and even London. His skin glowed, his teeth sparkled, and every photo screamed money. Chuka replied, "Wow, long time bro. Sure, let's meet." The next day, they met at a rooftop lounge in GRA Port Harcourt. Tunde looked like a different person. His chain sparkled in the sunlight, and he wore a white lining shirt with golden buttons. Even his perfume smelled expensive. "Chuka, my guy," he shouted, hugging him tightly. "Look at you, bro. You've added weight, oh." Chuka laughed. "Guy, na small. They sat, ordered drinks, and talked for hours. Tunde listened as Chuka spoke about work, the Gaza job, and his hunger for more. Tunde only smiled as he sipped his drink. "You've started tasting it," Tunde said. "That's sweet life. But if you want the full experience, you have to go deeper." Chuka leaned forward. "Deeper? How?" Tunde looked around, then lowered his voice. "There's a group, very powerful. They don't like noise. They choose people carefully. But once you are in,
life never remains the same. What kind of group? Tunde paused. It's called the Brotherhood of the Red Esclip. They are not on social media, no public meetings, but they run things, bro. Businessmen, politicians, influencers, many of them belong. They are the ones who hold the keys. Chuka swallowed. You are a member? Tunde smiled but didn't answer. Instead, he said, you will know when you are ready. They don't chase people, they watch. He leaned in closer. Let them see your hunger. Let them see your loyalty. That's how it begins. That night, Chuka walked home with his mind spinning. The Brotherhood of the Red Eclipse. The name alone sent chills through him, but it also excited him. Tunde hadn't said much, but he said enough. 2 days later, something strange happened. Chuka was walking to his car after work when he noticed a black SUV parked beside it. A man stepped out wearing sunglasses and handed him a black envelope. For you, he said, then got back into the SUV and drove off. Chuka opened it immediately. Inside was a small red card with a golden eclipse symbol in the center. No words, no instructions, just a symbol. His hands trembled. He looked around, but no one else seemed to notice. That night, he couldn't eat, couldn't speak. He sat in his room staring at the card. What did it mean? Was it from the Brotherhood? How did they know him? He remembered Kaza's words. When you are ready, you will know what to do. Suddenly, everything made sense. The invitation, the dinner, the compliments, the test job. They had been watching him. And now, they were calling him. Chuka's breathing slowed. His heart beat faster. A strange calm came over him. He walked to his mirror, stared at himself, and whispered, I'm ready. The black card with the golden eclipse symbol stayed on Chuka's table for days. He didn't know what to do with it, but he couldn't throw it away either. It felt powerful, mysterious, almost like it was watching him. Each morning he woke up and saw the card. He felt a strange energy inside him. It was as if something had been unlocked. A new version of himself that wanted more, craved more, and didn't want to go back. Then, on a quiet Thursday night, just after 8 p.m., his phone rang. It was Tunde. Guy! Tunde's voice came through, full of excitement. Get ready, we are going out tonight. Where to? Chuka asked. Tunde chuckled. You will see. Just wear your cleanest clothes and come to this address. I will test you now. Don't ask too many questions. Before Chuka could reply, the call ended. A text followed immediately, showing the location of a luxury apartment in Old GRA, Port Harcourt. Chuka looked around his small room, nervous but curious. He pulled out the only decent outfits he had left. Black trousers, a sky blue shirt, and his polished shoes. As he dressed up, he caught his reflection in the mirror and smiled slightly. Something about tonight felt different. He took a bike to the location. The area was quiet, lined with tall trees and expensive houses. He had only passed that street once before and never imagined he would be invited to any of the houses there. When he arrived, a tall gate opened slowly before him. Inside was a stunning compound, marble tiles, shining cars, tall palm trees, and lights that made the whole place glow like a movie scene. Tunde came out of the house smiling, wearing an all-white senator outfit with gold embroidery. He looked rich, confident, untouchable. My G, he called out, hugging Chuka. You made it. Come in. Tonight will change your life. Chuka followed him into the house. The scent of expensive perfumes and air conditioning welcomed him. The sitting room was large and beautifully decorated with leather chairs, golden curtains, glass tables, and large art piece that screamed wealth. But this wasn't the main event. Tunde led him through the house and down a hallway to a back door. Ready? Tunde asked. Chuka nodded, his heart beating fast. Tunde opened the door and they stepped into what looked like an open garden, but was more than that. Music played softly in the background. There were lights hanging above the trees, and everywhere was filled with beauty, elegant men in suits and native wear, beautiful women in glowing gowns, waiters holding glasses of champagne, and cars worth millions parked just beside a swimming pool. Chuka paused. It was like a dream or maybe a movie. Welcome to the real Port Harcourt, Tunde said beside him, smiling. This is where things happen. These are the people that matter. As they walked deeper into the garden, Chuka recognized some faces. Businessmen he had only seen on TV, a top musician, a politician from Abuja, even the CEO of a major bank. Everywhere he turned, there was laughter, money, power, and seduction. The air smelled of wealth. The conversations were about oil deals, real estate, foreign accounts, and private jets. A smile, light-skinned woman walked past them and gently brushed Chuka's arm. Nice eyes, she said, smiling, then walked away before he could reply. Chuka blinked, speechless. Tunde laughed. Get used to it, bro. Women like power, and power lives here. They moved towards a raised lounge at the far end of the garden. There, sitting with a few older men, was someone Tunde pointed at. That's Chief Danziba, he whispered. He's the one you need to meet tonight. He doesn't talk too much, but when he does, it matters. He's one of the heads. The heads of what? Chuka asked. You understand soon, Tunde said, patting his back. Chief Danziba looked like royalty, dark-skinned, full beard, dressed in a black kaftan with red embroidery. His fingers were heavy with gold rings, and his eyes were sharp like someone who knew everyone's secret. Tunde greeted him respectfully. Chief, good evening, sir. This is my friend I told you about, Chuka Obi. The chief looked at Chuka from head to toe before smiling slightly. Ambition sits well on you, young man, he said in a deep tone but calm voice. Thank you, sir, Chuka said, bowing slightly. Do you know what makes a man truly powerful? The chief asked. Chuka shook his head. Control, the chief said. Not just over others, but over himself. His fear, his desire, his hunger. Chuka nodded slowly. Most men waste their life begging the world to notice them, the chief added. But the few who understand how the world works, those are the ones who rise. Chuka felt goosebumps. The chief turned to Tunde. You've chosen well. Let's watch and see how far he's willing to go. They moved on to meet more people. Older men with quiet power, younger men with loud money, and women who floated through the party like butterflies. Chuka was offered drinks, served grilled meat, and introduced to people he had only read about in newspapers. His head spun with excitement and confusion. This was another world entirely, far from his small apartment, his leaking sink, and his unpaid bills. As the party slowed down towards midnight, Tunde pulled Chika aside. Come with me, he said. They walked back into the house and into a private room. It was quiet and dimly lit. Tunde opened a drawer and pulled out a small box. Inside was a red card, deep red with a golden eclipse symbol. He handed it to Chuka. This is your real invitation, Tunde said. You've passed the first test. They've seen you. They want you. Chuka took the card slowly, his fingers trembling. What happens now? He asked. Tunde smiled. Now, you wait. They will call you. But when they do, your life will never be the same. He leaned closer and whispered in Chuka's ear, your time has come. It was a cloudy Friday evening when the call came in. Chuka was in his apartment, trying to eat, but with no appetite. Ever since that exclusive party at Tunde's place and the moment he received the second red eclipse card, he had been living in suspense. His mind couldn't rest. His dreams were filled with strange voices, fire, shadows, and blood. He picked up the phone and checked the caller ID. It was a hidden number. Cautiously, he answered. Hello? A calm, unfamiliar voice replied. Mr. Chuka Obi, you are expected at the location printed on the back of your card tonight, 11 p.m. Do not be late. Before he could respond, the line went dead. Chuka quickly rushed to the drawer where he kept the red Eclipse card. Until that moment, he hadn't even checked the back of it. Carefully, he turned it over. Written in a small golden letters was the address of a mansion he had never heard of. Hilltop Estate, Rumukwashi, a place on the outskirts of Port Harcourt, surrounded by dense forest and luxury farms. It wasn't a place people visited randomly. His hand trembled as he put the card back inside his pocket. He didn't know what to expect, but he knew this night was the beginning of something big, something dangerous. By 10:15 p.m., dressed in black, Chuka entered a hired boat ride and gave the rider the address. The man raised his brow slightly but said nothing. It was a long, silent journey. The road became narrow as they approached the estate. Trees lined both sides of the path. There were no streetlights, only the car's headlights cutting through the darkness. At exactly 10:56 p.m., they arrived at a tall black gate with two men in long red cloaks standing guard. The driver slowed down, clearly nervous. This place seems dangerous, so the driver muttered. Chuka stepped out of the car. Wait for me here. Before the driver could respond, one of the guards raised his hand. Only you may enter, he said. The gate slowly opened on their own, revealing a long driveway lit by torches. At the end of it stood a massive mansion, dark, quiet, and surrounded by statues of animals and warriors. Chuka swallowed hard and walked forward. As he approached the entrance, another man in a red robe opened the door and motioned for him to enter. Inside, the air was cool but heavy. The lights were dim, casting long shadows on the walls. The floor was made of black marble, and golden symbols lined the ceiling. Chuka was led down a corridor to a circular room where 5 men sat on high chairs, each wearing a red cloak and black gloves. One of them was Chief Danziba. In the middle of the room was a large symbol of the red eclipse carved into the floor. Around it stood other men. Some Chuka recognized from the party, others he had never seen. Tunde stood at the side and gave him a reassuring nod. Chuka Obi, Chief Danziba began, his voice deep and commanding. You have been watched, you have been tested, and now you are here. Chuka nodded slowly. Before we go further, the chief continued, we need to ask, are you ready to step out of the light and walk through the shadows? Chuka hesitated. His heart pounded. Every voice inside him screamed both run and stay. I am ready, he said at last. Another man stepped forward and handed Chuka a black scroll with golden edges. On it were words he couldn't fully understand. Strange symbols, a place to sign. This is your oath, said the chief. You are pledging loyalty to the Brotherhood of the Red Eclipse. Your life no longer belongs to the world. You are now part of something eternal. Chuka took the scroll. His hand trembled. What happens after I sign? You receive your gift, the chief replied. But nothing comes free. Everything has a cost. What kind of cost? The chief stood. A sacrifice must be made. Life for life. That is the law of power. Chuka froze. A sacrifice? He asked. The room fell silent. Tunde stepped forward. It's not as bad as it sounds, he whispered. Think of someone who wouldn't be missed. Someone you can live without. Chuka looked at him with disbelief. You did this? Tunde gave a small nod. I did what I had to do. Now I live like a king. My mother has a mansion. My siblings are in Europe. I feed hundreds, but I paid the price. Chuka looked down at the scroll. "You have till midnight," Chief Danziba said. "If you do not, you will never be called again. This chance will not return." They turned their backs and left the room. Chuka stood alone in the circle. Thoughts rushed through his mind. His mother's kind face, his late father's dreams for him, Uju's gentle voice telling him not to lose himself. Then he thought of his debts, his poor background, his hunger, his humiliation, his dreams of building empires. He clenched his jaw. "I've suffered enough," he whispered to himself. He sighed. The ink on the scroll turned red. Suddenly, the room grew darker, and the temperature dropped. A small wind swirled around red eclipse symbol on the floor. A low hum filled the air. The men in cloaks returned. One held a silver bowl filled with black liquid. Another held a small knife. Chuka was asked to kneel. The chief dipped the knife into the bowl and traced the red eclipse symbol on Chuka's forehead. "You are now born anew," he said. "From this moment, you are no longer ordinary." They all began to chant in language Chuka did not understand. Then they raised their hands together and said in unison, "Power in blood, blood in power. The shadows welcome you." As the chant ended, a powerful heat ran through Chuka's body. His eyes closed, his mind burned, his vision blurred. He saw things, people screaming, money raining, hands clapping, blood dripping, and doors were opening. Then darkness. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the circular room, alone. In his pocket, he found a new black card. This one had his name in gold, followed by the words, "Member of the Red Eclipse, Level 1. Tunde reappeared. "You did it," he said with a smile. "Welcome to your new life." As they walked out of the mansion, Chuka felt different. He didn't know what had changed exactly, but something inside him had shifted. His fears had been replaced with fire. The world outside was quiet. The night air was cold, but Chuka Obi was no longer the same. Chuka Obi woke up the next morning in his small apartment with sweat all over his body. He looked around, confused and dizzy. His shirt was soaked, and his heart was racing. The last thing he remembered was stepping out of that secret mansion with Tunde. Everything else felt like a dream, but it wasn't a dream. On his desk, the black card was still there. Member of the Red Eclipse, Level 1, written in gold. That was the proof. He walked slowly to the bathroom and stared at his reflection in the mirror. Something was different. His face looked sharper, his eyes deeper, and his skin brighter. He could feel it inside him too. Something had changed. He no longer felt fear. He felt power. That same morning, his phone rang. It was his office manager. "Chuka, we just landed a multi-million naira contract from Grand Royal Hotels, and they requested you personally to lead the project." "What?" Chuka asked, stunned. "Yes, they said someone high up recommended you. You start meetings with them tomorrow. This could make your career." Chuka dropped the phone slowly and sat down. Just like that. Something that big. He knew it. The brotherhood had started working. Over the next few days, things began to happen fast. The project was successful. Chuka impressed the hotel owners with his ideas. They were so pleased. They gave him a private suite to stay in whenever he wanted. Soon, other clients started calling. Big names, big people who had ignored him before were now chasing him with offers. He was invited to speak at business events, invited to private dinners, featured in magazines and blogs. By the end of that month, his bank account had over 47 million. The first thing he did was buy a brand new Mercedes-Benz GLE 53. Then, he moved out of his small apartment and bought a 5-bedroom duplex in Peter Odili Road, one of the most expensive areas in Port Harcourt. The house had a gatehouse, swimming pool, private cinema, and marble tiles in every corner. The neighbors were shocked when they saw him move in. People started calling him Mr. Big Money online. His Instagram blew up overnight. He now had over 200,000 followers. He posted pictures of himself in designer clothes, at VIP clubs, by the pool, eating expensive meals. Every post got thousands of likes and comments. Uju watched all of this from the corner of his new life. At first, she was proud. Then, she became worried. Whenever she tried to call or text him, he was either busy or gave short answers. When she finally visited his new house, she saw the change with his own eyes. He didn't hug her like before. He didn't ask about her day. He didn't smile the way he used to. He offered her wine in a glass she was too scared to hold and told her not to touch anything without asking. "Chuka, what's going on?" she asked softly. "Nothing," he said, scrolling through his phone. "I'm just focused." "You're not the same," she whispered. "Your eyes, you feel cold." Chuka looked up at her. "Do you want me to stay broke forever?" "No," she replied. "I just want the man I fell in love with." He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city lights were glowing. He could see his new Benz parked proudly at the gate. "I can't go back to that life, Uju. I've worked too hard to be a small boy again." "I understand, but don't lose your soul in the process." He turned and gave her a strange smile. "Maybe I already did." Uju didn't know what that meant, but it scared her. Later that night, after she left, Chuka tried to sleep, but something strange started happening. He had a nightmare. In it, he was standing in a dark room surrounded by shadows. Blood dripped from the ceiling, and voices whispered in a language he didn't even understand. A black figure with red eyes walked toward him, holding a scroll stained with blood. "You signed it," the figure said. "Now you must feed it." Chuka screamed and woke up, gasping. He looked around. His room was quiet, dark, and cold. The AC was on. His TV was off. But he could still hear a soft whisper. He sat up, breathing heavily. Then, it happened again the next night, and the one after that. Sometimes, he would wake up in a different room of the house with no memory of how he got there. Other times, he would hear knocking at his door at 3 a.m., but no one would be there. He started having blackouts during the day too fast. Forgetting meetings, forgetting names, seeing flashes of blood in mirrors. He told no one, not even Tunde. Instead, he covered it up with more parties, more luxury, and more distractions. He started sleeping with different women, drinking more, and avoiding anything that reminded him of who he used to be. One evening, while driving back from a club at 2 a.m., his car radio came on by itself. It played a deep voice, repeating, "You made a vow, a life for life." He stopped the car and threw the radio out the window, sweating and panting. At home, he went straight to his room, locked the door, and collapsed on the bed. He picked up his phone and saw a new message from an unknown number. "You've enjoyed the gift. Now, it's time to give again." That night, he didn't sleep. His nightmares turned to screams. And in the morning, his mirror cracked without being touched. Chuka Obi had risen, but the shadows were now walking with him. Chuka Obi sat in his luxurious living room, staring blankly at the television screen. The TV was on, but he wasn't watching. His mind had become a noisy place. He was no longer the same man who was begged for small jobs or worried about fuel money. Now, he had everything: cars, cash, clothes, and connections. But peace? Peace had left him. It had been 3 weeks since the nightmares began. 3 weeks of sleepless nights. Broken mirrors, flickering lights, and invisible whispers that called his name from dark corners. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same thing. A shadow holding out bloody hands, demanding something. And now, he finally understood what it meant. That evening, his phone rang. The screen flashed a number with no digits, just blank. He picked it up and placed it to his ear. A calm, familiar voice spoke. "Chuka Obi." It said, "You've enjoyed the gift. Now, it is time to renew the circle." Chuka swallowed. His hand shook. What does that mean? You must feed what fed you. Feed? A life, the voice said. The blood oath is not symbolic. It is real. The door you opened must remain open, and it must be watered. Chuka stood from his chair, pacing. You didn't say this would happen. You didn't say I will have to kill anyone. Silence. Then the voice replied, You signed. You agreed. And no one leaves. The call ended. He stood still, breathing heavily. He didn't want to do this. He couldn't. But deep down, he had always known it was coming. From the day he entered that mansion, from the night he saw the symbols, the rituals, the chants, he knew there was more. He had just chosen not to think too deeply. Now, there was no escape. That night, he drove to Tunde's house. Tunde welcomed him in with a drink and a smile. You look like you saw a ghost, Tunde joked. I was called, Chuka said quietly. They said it's time. Tunde's smile faded. He set down his drink. It was always time eventually. I can't do it. Tunde raised an eyebrow. Then be ready to lose everything. Chuka frowned. Everything? Yes, Tunde said firmly. Your money, your wealth, your name, your life. You don't back out. You don't delay. You give or you suffer. There has to be another way, Tunde. Tunde leaned closer. When you drank from that cup, you chose your path. Guy, you can't pretend to be a saint now. The wealth must be fed. Chuka stood up, angry. You're okay with this? Taking lives to maintain your luxury? Tunde looked at him calmly. I didn't make the rules. I only followed them. And look at me. I'm thriving. Chuka left without saying another word. As he drove home, his head spun. His body felt hot. His mind ran wild with fear, anger, and confusion.